I chose my wife over my manipulative mom, and my siblings called me Heartless. Now they're thanking me for saving our family. I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. I'm Liam, 32M, and I've been married to Sophia, 30F, for 5 years now. We met during our sophomore year of college when we were paired up for a group project in our environmental science class. I remember being struck by her passion for the subject and her quick wit. We spent countless hours working on that project, and somewhere between analyzing soil samples and debating climate change policies, we fell in love. Our relationship wasn't always smooth sailing. We came from different backgrounds. I grew up in a small town with a close-knit family, while Sophia was a city girl raised by her single mom. There were times when our different perspectives clashed, but we always managed to work through our issues. We graduated college, started our careers, and after 3 years of dating, I proposed during a hike to our favorite waterfall. My parents, especially my mom Linda, 58F, were thrilled when Sophia and I got engaged. Mom had always wanted a daughter, and she took Sophia under her wing right away. She taught Sophia old family recipes, shared embarrassing stories from my childhood, and even helped plan our wedding. Sophia's own mom had passed away when she was in high school, so I think she appreciated having a maternal figure in her life again. For the first few years of our marriage, everything was great. Sophia and I both had jobs we enjoyed. I worked as an environmental engineer, and she was a wildlife biologist. We bought a small house with a big backyard where we planned to start a vegetable garden. We had game nights with friends, went on weekend camping trips, and talked about starting a family in a few years. Then, last year, my dad passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. It hit all of us hard, but Mom was devastated. They had been high school sweethearts, married for nearly 40 years. Dad was always the more outgoing one, the one who made friends easily and kept in touch with everyone. Mom, on the other hand, was more introverted and relied on Dad for most of her social interactions. In the weeks following Dad's funeral, Mom seemed lost. She couldn't sleep, barely ate, and spent most of her time looking through old photo albums. Sophia and I were worried about her being alone in the house she'd shared with Dad for so long, so we invited her to stay with us for a while. We thought it would be good for her to have company and a change of scenery. At first, having Mom stay with us seemed like a good solution. She started eating regular meals again and even helped us finally start that vegetable garden we'd been talking about. She and Sophia would spend evenings looking through old cookbooks, planning meals for the week. I was relieved to see Mom smiling again, even if it was just for brief moments. But as weeks turned into months, things started to change. Mom didn't seem interested in moving back to her own place. Whenever we'd gently bring up the subject, she'd change the topic or make excuses about needing to finish some project around our house. She started making comments about how she felt safer living with us and how lonely she'd be on her own. Gradually, Mom's presence began to affect our daily lives more and more. She'd wake up early and make elaborate breakfasts, insisting we all sit down together before work. She'd call me multiple times during the day to ask about the most trivial things. When Sophia and I would try to have a quiet evening together, Mom would often insert herself, asking us to watch a movie with her or play a board game. Things really started to get tense when Mom began offering unsolicited advice about our marriage. She'd make comments about how I should be helping more around the house, or suggest that Sophia should cut back on her work hours to spend more time at home. Once, she even criticized Sophia's cooking, saying it wasn't healthy enough for me. I could see the hurt and frustration in Sophia's eyes, but she tried to be patient, understanding that Mom was still grieving. The situation came to a head last week. Sophia and I were in our bedroom, discussing our plans to start trying for a baby. We'd been putting it off for a while, partly because of Dad's passing and Mom moving in, but we felt ready to take that next step. Suddenly, Mom burst into the room without knocking. She'd apparently overheard our conversation and was in tears, saying she couldn't bear the thought of us having less time for her if we had a child. I was shocked by Mom's reaction and tried to calm her down, explaining that having a baby wouldn't mean we'd love her any less. But she accused us of trying to push her out of our lives and said we were being selfish. Sophia, who had been patient for so long, finally snapped. She told Mom that this was our house and our marriage, and that we had a right to make decisions about our family without Mom's input. Mom stormed out of the room, and I was left standing there, feeling torn between my wife and my mother. Sophia was upset, and rightly so. She told me that she couldn't live like this anymore, that she felt like we didn't have any privacy in our own home. She said Mom was becoming too dependent on us and that it wasn't healthy for anyone. I know Sophia is right, but I'm torn. I love my mom, and I know she's still grieving. When I look at her, I still see the woman who kissed my scraped knees when I was a kid, who stayed up late helping me with science fair projects, who beamed with pride at my college graduation. I don't want to abandon her when she needs us. But I also love my wife. Sophia has been my rock through all of this. She's been patient and understanding, but I can see that her patience is wearing thin. I'm worried that if this continues, it could drive a wedge between us. We've always talked about having kids, and I don't want to keep putting our lives on hold. I've tried talking to Mom about finding her own place, but she gets emotional and guilt trips me. She says things like, "I guess I'm just a burden to everyone now," or your father would be so disappointed in how you're treating me. It's hard not to feel guilty when she says these things, even though I know she's manipulating my emotions. I'm stuck between my wife and my mother, and I don't know what to do. How can I help my mom move on without hurting her feelings? How do I balance my responsibilities as a son and a husband? I love them both, and I feel like no matter what I do, I'm going to end up hurting someone I care about. I've thought about reaching out to my siblings for help, but they live in different states and have their own families to worry about. Plus, mom has always been closest to me, being the youngest. I don't want them to think I can't handle this on my own. Sophia has suggested that mom might benefit from grief counseling, but when I brought it up, mom dismissed the idea. She said she didn't need to talk to a stranger about her feelings and that having her family around was all the therapy she needed. I'm at a loss. Our home, which used to be our sanctuary, now feels tense and uncomfortable. Sophia and I are arguing more than we ever have before, usually in whispers behind closed doors so mom won't hear. I miss the easy companionship we used to have, the lazy Sunday mornings and the spontaneous date nights. I know something needs to change, but I'm afraid of making the wrong decision. If I insist that mom moves out, will she be able to cope on her own? Will she ever forgive me? But if I don't do something soon, will I be risking my marriage? I never imagined I'd be in this position, torn between the two women I love most in the world. Any advice on how to navigate this situation would be greatly appreciated. How do I help my mom regain her independence without making her feel abandoned? How do I reassure Sophia that our marriage and our future family are my priority without seeming cruel to my grieving mother? I feel like I'm walking a tightrope, and I'm terrified of falling. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update on the situation with my mom and Sophia. Things have escalated, to say the least. After reading your comments, I realized I needed to have a serious conversation with both my mom and Sophia. I decided to start with Sophia, as she's my partner and I wanted to make sure we were on the same page. I planned a special evening for us. I asked mom if she could visit her sister for the night, giving Sophia and me some much-needed alone time. I cooked Sophia's favorite meal, the same one I made for our first anniversary, and we sat down to talk. As we ate, Sophia opened up about how much my mom's presence was affecting her. She told me she felt like she was walking on eggshells in her own home, always worried about upsetting my mom or causing a scene. She confessed that she'd been putting off talking about starting a family because she couldn't imagine raising a child with my mom constantly hovering over us. Sophia shared a memory from early in our relationship, when we used to dream about our future together. We'd talk for hours about the home we'd build, the adventures we'd have, the family we'd create. She said she felt like that dream was slipping away, replaced by a reality where we were more caretakers than partners. Hearing all this from Sophia made me realize how much I'd been neglecting her feelings in an attempt to keep the peace. I promised her that I would talk to my mom and set some firm boundaries. We spent the rest of the evening reconnecting, reminding ourselves of why we fell in love in the first place. The next day, I asked my mom to go for a walk with me. There's a park near our house where Dad and I used to play catch when I was a kid. I thought the familiar setting might make the conversation easier. As we walked, I explained to her that while we loved having her with us, it was time for her to start thinking about moving back to her own place. I told her that Sophia and I needed our space as a married couple, and that we were planning to start a family soon. At first, Mom seemed to take it well. She nodded and said she understood. But then, as we were walking back home, she suddenly burst into tears. She accused me of abandoning her, saying that Dad would be ashamed of how I was treating her. She brought up all the sacrifices she and Dad had made for me over the years, how they'd worked extra jobs to send me to college, how they'd always put my needs first. She said she had nowhere else to go and that Sophia had turned me against her. I was taken aback by her reaction. I tried to reason with her, reminding her that she had her own home and that we weren't kicking her out, just asking for some space. But she wouldn't listen. When we got home, she locked herself in her room and refused to come out for dinner. The next few days were tense. Mom barely spoke to either of us, and when she did, it was with passive-aggressive comments. She started calling my siblings and other relatives, telling them how cruelly I was treating her. My phone was flooded with messages from family members, asking what was going on and why I was being so heartless to our grieving mother. I tried to explain the situation to my siblings, but I could tell they were skeptical. My brother Alex suggested that maybe we were being too hasty, that Mom just needed more time. My sister Emma asked if we could really not put up with Mom for a little longer, given everything she'd done for us. Their words made me doubt myself, wondering if I was indeed being selfish. Things came to a head last weekend. Sophia and I had plans to go out for dinner to celebrate our anniversary. We'd made the reservations weeks in advance and were looking forward to some time alone. But when we were about to leave, Mom suddenly claimed she wasn't feeling well and insisted that I stay home to take care of her. Sophia was furious. She accused Mom of faking illness to manipulate us. Mom denied it vehemently, and soon they were both yelling at each other. I tried to intervene, but it only made things worse. Sophia ended up leaving the house in tears, and Mom locked herself in her room again. I spent that night on the couch, feeling like a complete failure. I'd managed to upset both my wife and my mother, and I was no closer to resolving the situation. Sophia came home late that night and told me she's considering staying with her sister for a while to get some space. The thought of her leaving, even temporarily, terrified me. I love my mom, but I can see now how her behavior is toxic. She's using her grief and our guilt to manipulate us, and it's taking a toll on my marriage. I know I need to set firm boundaries, but I'm worried about how she'll react. She doesn't have many friends, and I'm afraid she might do something drastic if I insist she move out. I'm planning to reach out to my siblings for help, but I'm not sure what to do next. How do I protect my marriage without completely alienating my mother? How do I convince my family that I'm not being cruel, just trying to maintain a healthy balance? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It's been a challenging time, but I think we're finally making some progress. After the disastrous anniversary dinner incident, I knew I had to take decisive action. I reached out to my siblings, explained the situation in detail, and asked for their help. My brother Alex, 35M, and sister Emma, 29F, were shocked to hear how bad things had gotten. They agreed to come and stay with us for a week to help mediate the situation. Having my siblings there was a game changer. They were able to see firsthand how Mom was behaving and how it was affecting Sophia and me. They witnessed Mom's mood swings, her passive-aggressive comments, and her attempts to guilt-trip us. They also saw how Sophia and I were walking on eggshells in our own home, how the easy companionship we once had was strained. We decided to have a family meeting, just the 4 of us siblings and Mom. We chose to have it in the backyard, neutral territory where everyone could feel comfortable. It was a beautiful spring day, and I couldn't help but remember all the family barbecues we used to have there when Dad was alive. The conversation was emotional and difficult, but we managed to get through it. We explained to Mom that while we all loved her, her behavior was unacceptable. We told her that she needed to move back to her own place and seek grief counseling to help her process Dad's death in a healthier way. At first, Mom was defensive and tried to guilt-trip us. She accused us of not understanding her pain, of abandoning her when she needed us most. But when she saw that all 3 of us were standing firm, she broke down. She admitted that she was terrified of being alone and that she'd been using her grief as an excuse to avoid moving on with her life. It was hard to see Mom so vulnerable, but it was also a breakthrough. For the first time since Dad died, she was being honest about her feelings instead of manipulating us with them. We spent hours talking, crying, and even laughing a little as we shared memories of Dad. Alex and Emma offered to help Mom find a new apartment close to Alex's place. They also agreed to take turns checking in on her regularly. This seemed to ease some of Mom's anxiety about living alone. We made a plan for her to start grief counseling and to join some community groups to help her make new friends. As for Sophia, she agreed to come back home after I assured her that things were going to change. She was understandably wary, but she could see that I was finally taking action to address the situation. We had a long talk about our future, reaffirming our commitment to each other and our plans to start a family. The process of moving Mom out was not easy. There were tears and arguments as we sorted through her things, deciding what she needed in her new place and what could be stored. Each item seemed to hold a memory, and Mom struggled to let go. But we got through it together, as a family. We found Mom a nice apartment in a senior community not far from Alex's house. It has a small garden where she can grow flowers, something she always loved doing with Dad. Emma helped her decorate it to make it feel more like home, hanging family photos and arranging Dad's favorite armchair in the living room. It's been 3 weeks since Mom moved out, and I can already feel the difference in our home. Sophia and I are rediscovering our space and our relationship. We've started having date nights again, and we're even tentatively discussing our plans to start a family. Last weekend, we finally planted that vegetable garden we've been talking about for years. Mom is adjusting. She calls more often than I'd like, but I'm learning to set boundaries. I don't answer every call, and I limit our conversations to reasonable lengths. She started grief counseling, and while it's early days, I think it's helping her process her emotions in a healthier way. She's even mentioned joining a book club at her new community center. There's still tension between Mom and Sophia, but they're both making an effort to be civil. Sophia has agreed to weekly family dinners at our place, which gives Mom a chance to see us without overstaying her welcome. Last week, Mom even complimented Sophia's cooking, which is a small but significant step forward. I know we still have a long way to go, but I feel hopeful for the first time in months. I'm grateful for my siblings' support and for Sophia's patience. I'm learning to balance my roles as a son and a husband, and while it's not always easy, I know it's necessary for the health of all my relationships. Thank you all again for your advice and support. It really helped me find the courage to make these difficult but necessary changes. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on how things have progressed. The transition hasn't been easy, but we've made significant strides. Mom has been living in her new apartment for over 5 months now, and she's slowly but surely adjusting to independent life again. The grief counseling has been a huge help. She's learning to process her emotions in healthier ways and is even starting to rediscover old hobbies and interests. Last month, Mom surprised us all by signing up for a watercolor painting class at the community center. It's something she used to do when she was younger, before she got married and had kids. She's been sending us pictures of her paintings, and while they're not masterpieces, it's wonderful to see her engaging with life again. Alex and Emma have been great about checking in on Mom regularly. They've helped her get involved in some community activities at her senior living complex, which has allowed her to make new friends. She's even started volunteering at a local animal shelter, which keeps her busy and gives her a sense of purpose. Last week, she called me excitedly to tell me about a litter of kittens she's helping to care for. As for Sophia and me, our relationship has improved dramatically. The tension that had been building up over months of living with Mom has dissipated, and we're back to enjoying our time together. We've started trying for a baby, and we're excited about the possibility of starting our own family. We've turned the room that used to be Mom's into a home office, but we're both secretly hoping it'll become a nursery soon. Our vegetable garden has flourished, and we've been enjoying fresh produce all summer. We've even started canning some of our excess harvest, something Mom taught us how to do. It's nice to be able to share these kinds of activities with her now, without the pressure of having her in our space all the time. Mom's relationship with Sophia is still a work in progress, but it's getting better. They're both making an effort to be kind and understanding towards each other. Our weekly family dinners have become more relaxed and enjoyable for everyone. Last week, Mom and Sophia were laughing together over some old family photos, and it warmed my heart to see them bonding. There have been a few bumps along the way. Mom had a bit of a setback around the 1-year anniversary of Dad's death. She called me in tears, saying she missed him terribly and felt alone. But instead of trying to solve everything for her, I listened and validated her feelings. Then I gently reminded her of all the progress she's made and encouraged her to use the coping strategies she's learned in therapy. She was able to work through it without falling back into old patterns. Mom still calls more often than I'd like sometimes, but I'm getting better at maintaining boundaries without feeling guilty. I've learned that it's okay to let her calls go to voicemail occasionally and to keep our conversations focused and time limited. Looking back, I can see how close we came to a breaking point. I'm grateful that I found the courage to take action before irreparable damage was done to my marriage or my relationship with my mom. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I doubted whether I was doing the right thing, but seeing how much happier and healthier everyone is now, I know it was the right decision. I've learned a lot through this experience, about setting boundaries, balancing familial responsibilities, and the importance of open communication. I'm not perfect, and I still make mistakes, but I'm trying to be a better son, husband, and soon-to-be father. Recently, Mom thanked me for encouraging her to move out and seek help. She admitted that she was using her grief as a crutch and that living with us wasn't healthy for anyone. Hearing her say that felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. As we move forward, I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. We're planning a family vacation next summer, Sophia, Mom, my siblings and their families, all together. It'll be the first time we've all been together since Dad's funeral, but this time, I hope it'll be a celebration of life and family rather than a time of mourning. Thank you all again for your support and advice throughout this journey. It made a real difference in helping me navigate this difficult situation. I hope our story can help others who might be facing similar challenges with aging parents or family dynamics. Remember, it's possible to love and support your parents while still maintaining healthy boundaries and prioritizing your own family. It's not always easy, but it's worth it.